Something I'm genuinely grateful for when writing these reviews is the push to try out games that I otherwise would have skipped over, and Cinderedge is a great example of that. This is going to be the focus of this review, about stepping outside your comfort zone and discovering something quite special. Cinderedge is a solo journaling game inspired by atmospheric walking sims like What Remains of Edith Finch and Firewatch, but with more of a psychological survival horror element, where you try to maintain magical wards in the face of a continent-spanning wildfire. You can't win this game. You'll die alone. I almost certainly would have passed over this game, for being much bleaker than what I usually go for. But when the designer, Grant Mielke, offered me a preview copy, it pushed me to give Cinderedge a go. And I'm very glad I did. My only regret is not being able to get this preview out sooner. I initially planned to have it up just before the Kickstarter launches. I think that timing generally benefits everyone. But sadly, the shipping took so long that I was only able to play it a couple of days ago. But better late than never, so let's have a look. So this is a preview of the paperback version. The Kickstarter page calls it a perfect bound zine, but at 150 pages, it's far longer than what I'd normally call a zine. And I believe the plan is to produce a hardback version as well. Inside the book, every page is uniquely laid out with a kind of scrapbook feel. I want to highlight something really cool about it too, which is that the only thing you actually need to play the game is the book and a pencil. The prompt pages all have space for notes, journal entries and sketches, and the appendices have these arrays you can close your eyes and place a finger on to simulate card draws and dice rolls. It's not a perfect simulation, but it's a really thoughtful addition that means you can easily play on a commute or during your lunch break. Ash falls from the sky. The world is ablaze as ancient magical trees burn for decades. You wake up alone by a strange stone structure. You don't remember anything, but a note explains that you volunteered to tend the ward, and that process meant giving up your memories. The weeks pass, and as they do, your health and the integrity of the ward degrade. Those two stats, along with mind, are your numeric resources, so for every round, as it were, you lose 1 HP and 1 ward. You also have 2 narrative resources, items and memories. As you play, you'll gain and lose unique items and memories. They can even change, develop, or become corrupted. Once you've reduced your HP and ward, you draw a prompt from the card deck. Each card has a unique prompt that develops each time you draw that card, so it might be reasonable to think of these more like 52 different plot threads, each with 3 story beats. As a rule of thumb, drawing a heart usually means discovering something like a place to mark on your map, which the game encourages you to keep. A diamond means something happening with the ward, and you can sketch a new rune that appeared on its surface. A club usually relates to your memories, and a spade is often about your mental state. Once you've resolved the card prompt, you put it at the back of the deck. Only shuffle if prompted. Then you can decide if you want to recover some resources. That only happens at a cost. You can sacrifice an item to increase your health, let go of a memory to increase your mind, or you can bolster the ward, but that requires either blood or a mental toll, sacrificing a d6 of either HP or mind to heal the ward. So you can see that no matter what you do, eventually one of these resources will get to 0. You can only hold out so long. And when that happens, you make a note of which stat ran out, heal everything to full, and move on to the next chapter out of 3, which I won't spoil. That was really a dispassionate summary of the rules, which the game provides perfectly well in a quick reference page and in more detail further on. The reality of following this process isn't one of making numbers go up and down, it's one of emotion, of hopelessness, loss, and existential dread. So, let me tell you a bit about my story. There were moments of levity, of resting in a beautiful meadow, learning to play the lute as my pet crystal lizard Amy kept me company. Things were okay at first. My health wasn't affected by the ash and fumes, and having to survive off the land. I even started regaining some of the memories of who I was. First of a sister, Kai, waiting for me to return after we exchanged symbolic riverstones. Then my name and profession. I was a thief. Maybe that's why I was in this situation, a kind of penance. I remembered childhood friends and my hometown, and that feeling of a debt owed to society before I could return like I promised my sister kept me going. I repaired a hunting bow I found near a grave, made a net to fish, and built a solid shelter. But the weeks passed, and the ward demanded more. The fires grew ever closer, and I could no longer ignore the strange lights in the sky, the tracks that weren't mine. Paranoia set in as I remembered new things. I was a bounty hunter. I caught a thief with my name and my face. I turned them in. That can't have been me. I can't have been a thief, and this isn't my punishment. Why am I here? I remembered I had enemies. One of them, my childhood friend. Had we ever been friends? I still had a sacred sense of duty and went through the motions, even as I lost my name again. I started waking up in different places than I'd gone to sleep in. Someone must have moved me. I had to hunt them down. I knew I shouldn't make contact with the other wardens, but if one of us is sabotaging the wards, that has to take priority. I tracked them across the ashen fields into the burning woods where I found my own boots. I don't remember putting these different ones on, but the ones I found were definitely mine. I never discovered anyone else. The sense of duty got stronger on some days and weaker on others, and I lost my sense of self. The ward had a person-sized cocoon hanging from it now. I was sure it wasn't there before. I couldn't face whatever was inside, but the ward demanded more of myself. And as it took my first and last memory of my sister waiting, I decided to sacrifice what was left of my mind. I, the player, had become so attached to this one memory that when I was forced to mark it off, I voluntarily used the mechanic to sacrifice mine to increase ward. I had one mind left, so I knew that no matter what I rolled, this would end the game and kill my character, leaving Amy the crystal lizard alone to face the fire. I turned to the end pages and read what I had to do next. A very small nitpick I had was that the very first prompt I drew, the 10 of Hearts, is a seemingly great one that stops you from losing HP. But soon after that, I drew a prompt that said I can now only sacrifice minds to heal the ward. Now, that might be intentional, turning a survival story into a psychological horror, but it had the effect of essentially making HP and items obsolete, and made it difficult to work items like the crystal lizard Amy into the story. My only other nitpick is difficult to critique without spoilers, so I'll just say that I was hoping for a little more of an impactful change between chapters, but it's actually quite a subtle one. Cinderedge is a horror game in a very real sense. I don't mean that it has spooky elements or a dark aesthetic. I mean that it can be genuinely and deeply disturbing. Playing it felt like watching an atmospheric psychological horror movie in the first person, but one written by a team, you and the game. That kind of experience is far outside my comfort zone. I tend to seek escapism in my games, and dying in a fire is not usually my first choice. I worried it would be bleak, depressing, and uncomfortable, but it wasn't an unpleasant experience at all. It was unnerving, tense, and immersive. My memories page filled, parts crossed out, parts edited and annotated. I built a character from those shifting fragments, and was genuinely attached to the first memory I gained. I refused to change it or cross it off, and was so invested that I chose to end the game when I had no option but to lose it. The book encourages you to publish your final journal entry, so I'll share mine here. You're all I had left, Kai, the only thing I could be sure of. And now even you fade like morning mist against the blaze. I don't know who I am. My memories aren't my own. I can't tell what's real anymore, and all these stones look like ordinary rocks worn by water. I'm sure one was yours, and I'm sure you have mine, but I've gone through the pile 100 times, and I don't know which. Soon I'll wake up and realize there never was a stone, and that Kai was someone else's sister. But today, you're my sister, and I can't lose that. It's more important than the ward, more important than the world. Thank you for staying with me as long as you did, but you deserve a better companion out here. I know you can't read this. I don't even know why I'm writing to you when you're right here. Why did I call you Kai before? I don't recognize that name. You're Amy, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I can't look after you anymore. And I'm sorry I won't be coming back. Well, never let it be said that I only play cozy games. I hope it wasn't too much of a departure in tone. But thank you ever so much for watching, and of course a massive, massive thank you to this month's Ko-fi supporters for all their super generous help. I guess it's fitting that our first foray into horror would happen in October, so I might stick with that theme in the next few weeks. I've got some really interesting games that are all outside my comfort zone. So please do subscribe if you haven't already, and I've had a couple of people say that YouTube stopped recommending these reviews to them. So maybe, and I hate saying this, maybe consider pressing that bell button to get a notification to discover another new game in a week or two. And until then, happy adventures.